this up already.
There we go. Someone else got it straight away, mate.
Yeah, hold on. I had it fucking pulled up and then.
You need to thank Moot.
Yeah, thank you, Moot.
God damn it! See, this is the kind of shit I wanted. I had all this shit fucking pulled up already. Fuck y'all, I'm sorry. But like, this is what this is for, just to fucking get it.
They can hear us, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I know. We're just trying
Rizzo,
to.
when he's Rizzo is talking when he's muted.
Oh shit. This stream is gonna be more of a shit show than a shit show.
Alright, good evening, good morning everyone. This is the test stream for the first stream of Uncle Rizzo's Story Hour. It's a working title. Today we have two Aussies and a crow, Green Sparrow, the King of Aussies, and Dr. Director. I've gotten a couple of questions I've been asked to answer about my life experiences, but again, this is test stream, so I just want to make sure that everything is working and good to go. Sparrow? Oh man, I just did all that.
Man, you should have unmuted yourself in here first.
No, I was unmuted.
Yeah.
I just didn't have my fucking push to talk.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
Did the intro come through though?
Yeah, the
Yeah, it
music
just came through
and all
good
that.
then.
Okay.
But you
Well,
gotta remember, everything you're saying right now is on live stream, so like, you just asked everybody on the live stream if the intro came through.
oh yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, this is just a test stream. This is what's, you know, that's what this is about. I wasn't trying to.
Someone send this to Tonka right now
Yeah.
on Twitter. Just Twitter at Tonka, guys.
Tonka.
Yeah,
Alright, so I guess
Tonka.
the first question is, mate, let's start this off with style. Tell us about prison.
What, the first
First of all, I
question?
guess tell us how you went to jail. Tell us how you first went to jail and how your experience was.
I have to ask because it's a relevant question. Which time? Like.
You may as well tell us about all of them, mate. First time first, second time second.
Well, the first one, like, started, like, when I was a kid. I went to juvie for, stealing cars. I would, like, well, it was not stealing cars, but I would, like, steal my mom's car and go ride around with my friends and shit, and she'd, like, call the cops on me. And then, she caught me, like, smoking weed and doing all that kind of stuff. And then, I was, like, a really bad, degenerate kid. And, like, when I was 15 or whatever, I started, like, I was doing coke, and a friend of mine that I was, like, getting coke from, I gave him some money, and he came back and was like, oh, fuck, man, I'm sorry, but they gave me the wrong stuff, you know, all we have is, like, some crack. And I was like, God damn it, dude, you fucking, I don't want to smoke crack. And he was like, well, I was like, you know, fuck it, you already spent my money, so, you know, might as well just try it. And, like, we smoked it out of a coke can or whatever. I was like, huh, this is crack? It's not bad. I don't see what the big deal is, you know? I think, you know, it's all just a bunch of bullshit. And then, within a week, I had drained my mom's bank account and was in juvie.
Honestly, how the fuck have I never heard this story before? I only heard the part about you smoking crack when you were young, when you wanted your friend to go get coke.
Yeah, well, that's what led to like I think it was either a week or 2 weeks, but like I drained my mom's bank account. I fucking pawned everything in the fucking house. I mean, it was horrible. But it was just because when I go back and think about it, it's because of the ease of access, because the hood was like right by my neighborhood, so it's literally like a quarter-mile drive, and they would have like all these black people that would stand on the side of the road, and you could just pull up, roll your window down, they would come up, serve you, and that's what they call it, serving. You like it's fucking McDonald's. And just about
Yeah.
your way. And like, so I discovered, I was like, oh, this is super easy access to drugs. And then I just went, I already have an addictive personality. I come to find out.
Oh my, well, it's okay. So tell us about juvie then. What was your experience like in juvie?
Well, that was the first time I'd actually been around black people, because like the school I went to, like elementary, junior high, and high school, like so my high school had about 1,500 people in it, and there was only 20 black people. And my neighborhood was 100% white. We didn't have any, I just never really been around black people. The town I came from didn't really have a lot of black people. But that was the first time, I got thrown, in close living quarters. Like in juvie, everybody had their own individual cell. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like an open door. We were just locked in like a 5 by 9 fucking square concrete block. And you gotta understand, a lot of other white people that were in there, they were all like wiggers. They all listened to rap and stuff like this. I came in there with a mohawk. Like I was a punk rock or whatever, and so like I'd never known that the term punk was used for like gay. So like they were asking me, they're like, "What do you like a rocker?" Like these black dudes were like, "What do you like a rocker or something?" I was like, "No, man, I'm a punk." And they took that as me thinking that I was like a faggot, because apparently punk is another term for faggot. And then I had to explain to them, no, 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 no. But the
No,
only
wait, dude. No, it's just the people who were into punk past the 90s were fucking faggots.
Well, no, no, no. In black culture, like in the hood, like punk is a term for being a queer. You say like you playing punk games is like if you go up and like slap your homie in the dick or whatever, play like playing game or whatever. It's called playing punk games.
Man, fucking hood culture is so weird.
Yeah, but the only thing that saved me is that I've always worn Vans, and at the time that song was popular. It's like I got my Vans on, but they look like sneakers. So like that was like my only saving grace. And then like I was in juvie for a couple weeks, and then I went to an adolescent rehab, and then I was in the adolescent rehab the first time for 3 months, and then I went back like 2 months later for 9 months.
So wait. When you're in juvie and you're saying that the thing that saved you from getting any shit sent towards you was you had the shoes.
Yeah, they thought it was funny that I had Vans, and like all these black people had like heard that song, I got Vans on, but they look like sneakers, but they had never actually seen anybody wear Vans.
Alright,
The
what's the
checkerboarded
most
slip
fucked
ones.
up thing you saw? Sorry about that. What's the most fucked up thing you saw inside juvie?
And in juvie, there was this guy. I think he was he might have been 14 or 15 or 16. I don't know, but he was like this big. He looked like he could be like 20 something, but he was mixed. He looked like a Pacific Islander, kind of like a like those big Hawaiians or whatever. What do you call them? Anyway, he was real light skinned, and he had like a fro or whatever, like a white person fro. But apparently he was in there. Yeah, Samoan. He looked Samoan, but he was in there because the story was that he had a baby with this girl, and he had pretty much he shook the baby to death. He fucking murdered his fucking own baby because he was a child having a child, and he was trying to play PlayStation or whatever, and fucking the baby wouldn't be quiet, so he shook it to death.
What was life in the hood like?
Wait,
Like, next
in the
to the
white
hood,
hood,
what was-
like in the
Yeah.
white hood.
Yeah, white hood.
Well, I mean, I didn't grow up in the White Hood. Like, I grew up in a pretty good middle-class suburban neighborhood. It just happened to be right
Motherfucker, you
next.
said you were 15 minutes away.
Yeah. No, not even 15 minutes. I said a quarter mile. But that's how segregated my town was. Like, the black people were only allowed to live in one specific part of town, and it was right near the railroad tracks. And then if you went over the railroad tracks, there's entrance to a neighborhood, and the neighborhood had like a fence and stuff like that, and it was a baseball park, So it's pretty much if you cross a fence in a ditch, you were in the hood. But on the other side was perfect, American dream, middle class, suburban America.
Because I don't know much about America, I'm Australian, but I just wanted to ask, is as violent in the Black Hood as you hear in the news in Australia, as in people get shot every day?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. So after, I think it was 2005 when Hurricane Katrina, you heard about that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so like
Although I don't know much of it, I just know that George Bush didn't send help or something.
The entire world heard about that.
Yeah, well, so pretty much you had like, I think New Orleans had a population of like maybe half a million people, and so they all got, they had to all run away. Well, like my town was only about an hour from New Orleans, and so you had a lot of people that came to our town, because they didn't have any other place to go. They went to my town, to Baton Rouge, and it was like night and day. The crime went up. You had all these like hood ass like New Orleans like legit gangbangers and stuff coming to some small like little country town or whatever, and so like the me getting the crack and all that was post Katrina. Like that wasn't around before. It was just that they had all these displaced people that came and brought all their shit with them, and like it took down like my little town and Baton Rouge. Like Baton Rouge Baton Rouge has always had like a hood or whatever. It's a majority black city, but like that's when the killings start getting a lot bad, because New Orleans was known as the murder capital, and like all these black people, they take pride in that. They're like, oh yeah, man, I'm from the city that's a murder capital, and it's like that's not anything to be proud of, but they take legitimate pride in it. And then so they just brought all that shit from New Orleans, and it spilled over into like where I live and Baton Rouge and shit like that. And so it's like the two cities had just gotten real bad for a little bit.
I think that's more of a victim complex, to be honest. Like, yeah, I come from the toughest places. Look at me, sort of shit.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is. So they're just trying to grasp at anything to have some sense of community pride. They're like, oh, we're from, or like, so they would call like Baton Rouge eventually ended up being called Choppa City, because choppers like AKs or whatever, or Jigga City, like jigs or ecstasy pills, and like so like the drugs were like, like it was just like taking pride in such degenerate shit, and like I didn't like any of that. I mean, I did the drugs and shit, but I just didn't take, I'm not trying to like, I don't want to make your whole community based off of something like that is just, degenerate.
Did you think that then, or you just didn't care?
At the time, I didn't care. Like I said, like I was a punk rocker. I was like an anarchist. I was pretty fucking cringy. I remember one time I took like a copy of the United States Constitution or the Bill of Rights or whatever, and like took a lighter to it and burned it. And was like, yeah, fuck America.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you have a leftist tattoo, by the way?
Do what?
A leftist tattoo, like a communist tattoo or something.
Are you Dankula?
No. Yeah, no leftist tattoos or anything like that. I mean, I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. I joined the Marine Corps like when I was 17.
Why did you join the Marine Corps?
So my sister was in the Marines, and my sister's 8 years older than me, and when I was 13, I had actually gotten in trouble for, I used to have like my own grass business, like when I was 13, because I lived in a neighborhood and people didn't want it, I was just a kid with a lawnmower. Me and my buddy were just, on Saturdays we'd go mow people's grass for like 10, 15 bucks, and, that's what we did all summer to make money to, do stuff. Well, my friend that I was doing it with he came from like a Mormon family, and he was like pretty, like, he had a bunch of issues, but he'd come up to me and was like, hey man, I was mowing one of our regular customers' grass, and he was like, dude, his shed door was open. When I opened up the shed, there was these boxes of like Skull and Copenhagen, like, a dip or whatever. And so the thing is, the guy was a distributor. Like, he went to all the stores and gas stations and dropped the stuff off. He was like, you want to fucking help me rob this dude and we can sell it? I was like, not really. But he ended up doing it, and I knew about it, and the cops got called and shit like that. And so I'd gotten in a lot of trouble. So that summer, my mom wanted to straighten me out, quote unquote. So she sent me to California to go hang out with my sister while she was in the Marine Corps, to thinking that would like toughen me up and straighten me out and shit like that. And so I spent a whole summer of 2003 hanging out with a bunch of Marines, and I was like, this was pretty cool. And I didn't want to join the Marine Corps then, but you know, after like so when I was finishing up high school, you know, I'd gotten accepted to a couple colleges. I was in all honors classes and stuff like that. But my mom refused to sign like a student loan thing or whatever. Like I couldn't get any funding to go to college, so I was like, you know, fuck, you know, I guess I'll, you know, join the Marine Corps, or like I'll talk to somebody. But then after like watching a bunch of moto videos and shit like that, like really finding out what's going on over there, I got to where I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I got like real emotional about like 9/11 and shit like that.
So wait, you believe 9/11 wasn't an inside job?
At the time, you know, I was 17. Yeah, I didn't know about any of that stuff. You know, I was
To
just
be fair,
watching.
I also got emotional when 9/11 happened. My Choose TV was ruined for life.
God damn, you're such a cunt when you're speaking to an American saying that.
I don't care anymore. You know,
What?
really.
It was an emotional time for me, dude.
I gotta say, mate, when I heard you say you had a grass business, I was assuming that you were just selling weed back when you were 13. I was like, God damn, respect.
That's what I thought he was doing too, to be honest.
Wait, what?
We thought you were selling weed.
Yeah, we thought you were selling weed when you said you had a grass business.
Oh no. I mean, I was like 14 when I started selling weed. But I mean,
Yeah,
I wasn't selling like weed. You know, they just selling like dime bags here and there like that. But like when I got older, that's when I started pushing. Like when I was, you know, in high school or whatever, that's when I was pushing shit. Or actually, when I got out of the Marine Corps, when me and my ex-wife were still together, I got out of the Marine Corps and like I had trouble finding a job because like, you know, I had like this big head on me. I thought I was hot shit. And so I had a friend of mine that was like, hey man, you want to fucking sell some weed for me? So he was like fronting me, you know, he would front me some weed and shit, and then I would sell it, or, you know, I'd sell it, and I was making decent money, you know, more money than I would be washing dishes at fucking Chili's.
Why did you get out of the Marine Corps?
I got out of the Marine Corps because I kind of got kicked out. So after my deployment to Japan, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, and all that, I came home and got married. Well, my wife was like known as like you know, we were stoners. We smoked and like did pills and shit like that. And like I went back home and was around that environment and ended up smoking weed. And then when I came back from getting married and like our leave, you know, they gave everybody a drug test, and like I had like thought I had washed my system out or whatever. You know, I used like the detox cleansers or whatever, but it didn't work. And then I ended up going to the fucking break for 60 days.
So I mean, like I was gonna say, you left out a little bit of information when you said you got, you know, you didn't get into university after you finished high school and you're selling weed. I was gonna say, what happened between the times of juvie and finishing high school?
Mostly rehab, because like I was saying, like the first time I went to rehab, I think I was like 16, or yeah, I was 16, and like the regular program was like 13 weeks or whatever, so about like 3 months, a little more than 3 months. And then I got out, I think it was like Thanksgiving, and then around Christmas or New Year's I relapsed or whatever, like I was on probation and stuff, and I ended up falling back into the same shit.
Relapsed on
Crack. But it was like another like 1 week binge. And like
mate, you gotta remember. Wait. You gotta remember. Most people who are listening to this or who will listen to this in the future have no idea what you're talking about.
No. So like I went on like another 1 week crack binge, pretty much repeated the exact same shit I went before. So when I went to the rehab the second time, they have a program that if you come back a second time, they have an extended program. So instead of 3 months, I did 9 months. And so you got, you know, so pretty much as a high schooler, I spent like a year in rehab pretty much. But I mean, they had school there and everything. It was pretty easy, and that was even like a more culture shock because again, I was around a bunch of black people and I wasn't jailed in. Like we had like rooms and roommates and stuff like that. You know, it was just a bunch of kids. And when I say kids, I'm saying like 12 and older. You know, 12 to 17. But that was living really close quarters with a lot of like hood ass people that were just going to rehab to get out of charges. like I got really deep personal, like some of these people, I kind of asked them, like, why do you have this whole hood mentality and shit like that? And, you know, I came to, like, really understand, like, I hate to say them, but, you know, yeah, pretty much I got to, like, you know, because at that point, we were all in a shitty situation. We are all kids. We all missed our families. We all missed homes. Like, the whole, you know, I'm black from the hood or I'm white from middle class, like, all that all was thrown out the window. And, you know, we actually were able to fucking be around people, and, like, people opened up. They didn't have, like, this hood front. They didn't front, you know, try to act a certain way because, you know, we were all in the same shitty situation.
Well, they weren't able to act tough because everyone else was just as tough around them.
Yeah. I mean, they had some fights, man. I had some crazy fucking rehab stories. I mean, it was the thing was, it was an old, the place was haunted as fuck because it was an old tuberculosis hospital. So the building was like 120 years old, and they used to like burn like the bodies of dead people, or like burn the bodies of people because the
Okay,
TB.
wait. You just said haunted as fuck. Rizzo, do you believe in ghosts?
I don't believe in like ghosts, like what people try to make it out to be, but I definitely think that there's a like I don't believe in a heaven or a hell, but I definitely believe in like maybe like there might be spirits, you know, and I don't know, it's something I'm on the fence about.
Man, you're so rational about everything else. Like, come the fuck on.
Well, I mean, like I've like Louisiana's supposed to, like New Orleans and shit's like pretty haunted or like shit like that. But I mean, I've had like experiences. I've like seen some weird things, and I'm just like I try to be very skeptical about everything. But I mean, I think most of it, a lot of it's just complete fucking bullshit, you know. But I also think that it's like the you know, the human mind will just make itself think it's something. Like we talked about the other day with the deja vu. The human mind can make people um create things, you know, even feelings and shit like that, just from like the will of their own mind. If they want to believe something's true enough, you know, they'll actually like can feel a ghost touch them or think that the temperature changes and all that.
I mean, the human mind can do crazy things, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's why we have a doctor here. I was going to say director. Do you want to chime in?
there's no such thing as ghosts.
Can you prove? Can you prove that?
Well, if you ever,
Sorry, I shouldn't go on that subject.
well, real quick, my theory of like how a spirit might be is that and I might be completely wrong because I'm a layman, but like so the human body, like we have electrical impulses, right? You know, like so like our brain, like there's synapses and it's pretty much like electricity. On the second law of thermodynamics, there's no such thing as lost energy. You know, so when a person dies, that electricity has to go somewhere. Now, some people would tell me like, oh no, the loss of energy is, or the no loss of energy is like when you die, you're put in a coffin, you're put in the ground, worms eat you. That's the energy, but that doesn't explain where the electricity goes.
Sure, I'll tell you where it goes.
Wait, Director. Rizzo,
Yeah.
good news. You just read the first page of my book on the occult.
We better bring in Stick, Sex, and Hammer in here. He'll explain it all. Look, here's the thing, dude. The electricity in your brain comes from chemicals, from an imbalance of ions. So it's basically an electric charge caused by an imbalance in the ions between the liquid that's, I mean, the area, the liquid between your cells and inside your cells. So inside your cells, there'd be like more positively charged or negatively charged. I don't even remember at this point. Ions, I'm too fucking sleepy. But the whole thing is, it's caused by chemicals, and when you die, and that imbalance is maintained by enzymes, and those enzymes by like proteins. I believe the ATP thing. Holy shit, I'm forgetting everything. But there are like mechanisms inside your cell that maintain that ion imbalance, which causes electricity, ionic imbalance. And when you die, your cells stop getting the energy to pump out the certain ions, and therefore there is no longer an electric charge. The electricity just, there's no longer a difference. I mean, it equalizes. You understand? So you have basically the same amount of negative and positive ions in the collapsing and disintegrating cells as you do in intercellular. I don't know what the English term is. The intercellular, like a liquid. So what you got? No, the membrane is around the cell. So to put it in really simple terms, the electricity is only there because you eat stuff, and it's maintained through a lot of energy, and it's not easy. In fact, that's what you spend a lot of your the energy you consume on. You maintain that electrical imbalance, and when you stop,
I guess
when you stop functioning, when you stop eating, when you stop, when you just stop, that equalizes very quickly. In a blink of an eye, that shit just stops firing. And
so I guess you're saying the electricity, like in our bodies, or whatever, is completely different than like the electricity that runs and turns the light on.
Yeah, not completely, but yeah, it is. It is based on. It is. Yeah. It's based on an ionic imbalance, whereas that would be based on whereas that's based on the transfer of electrons within a metal. So this is basically an ionic flow, what you got in your cells, but it is still electricity. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but in other words, you could understand where I came up with my theory, and
sure, I've heard it before. Even I'll put it in the simplest possible terms. That electrical energy turns back into chemical energy. So, and that chemical energy eventually gets consumed and falls apart. There you go. So it takes a lot of food to maintain that electrical charge. The human brain consumes massive amounts of sugar and shit and fuel and that. I mean, sugar is brain food. If you want to have nightmares before you go to bed, you can just eat a lot of sugar and you will have a lot of brain activity because it will have a lot of fuel. And that's what it spends huge amount of the energy we take in chemically is spent on maintaining that ionic imbalance. And once that stops, that imbalance disappears. So in other words, the energy, of course, the energy isn't lost. The second law of thermodynamics is in no way violated. What happens is simply that energy turns that electrical quote unquote energy turns into chemical energy.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So it's almost like a battery. So you can think of your brain's like a battery, because a battery will eventually lose power or whatever. But so chemical, that's how like a AA battery is. It's chemical.
Kinda,
okay, that makes sense.
So a quick question, I guess. So what's the permanent theory right now on where the consciousness is held? And also, Rizzo, do you want to drag Clown down into the chat room?
Well, I can answer that with my next cult book I'm gonna write. It's called Quantal Entanglement.
Quantal?
You mean the quantum
yes, we're all
entanglement?
connected. Do you know about quantum mechanics, Director?
No, I'm not a physicist.
We're all connected. Yes, good. That's perfect. We're all connected, you see, Director.
Shall I reincarnate?
No. We all become one. We are God. We are beings part of the singularity complex.
Hold on, guys, real quick. I just want to introduce. Hold on, I just want to introduce. We have another guest, Honk. He wanted to come in or whatever, so let's say hey to Honk.
Well, I said bring Aqua down.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, bring Honk up, bro.
I was just dragged in here.
Goodbye, Honk.
Goodbye,
No,
Honk.
no, Honk, you're not one of us. You're not one of us, mate. Deal with it.
No.
I can't remove him, so he's staying apparently.
Yeah, you have no powers here.
I know.
You want to stay in or no?
I don't care.
Power here.
Well, if you're not going to contribute, so.
He can contribute.
More than area.
Yeah, Aqua's being sexually harassed by the Scotsman, so.
All right, anyway,
I'll put him
back
in
to
the
the topic.
tank for you.
Yeah, back at the topic.
Well, what as far as where the consciousness lies, that's not even in dispute at all. It's in the cortex of your brain. What, being kicked? No.
Well, I mean, some people try to say like the conscious. Some people try to say like the consciousness is in like the heart. Isn't there like a little part of the heart that
No.
No, yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
Not at all.
I think people try to overplay the heart and make it seem like it's more than it really
that's
really
tradition.
is.
Well, that's because that's something that you can feel and hear happen inside your head, inside your body. So it's like people associate it with the brain, but actually, the Greeks, I believe, already figured out, or someone did, even in the ancient times, figured out that it's got to be the brain. You can actually figure it out because if you hit someone in the head, they're immediately gone. If you get someone in the heart, it takes a little while, not a long while, obviously.
You can
It
do
takes
a
a little
heart
while.
transplant, but you can't do a brain transplant,
I mean, you could. I mean, obviously, we can't do a brain transplant,
or
but
it just wouldn't be ethical.
No, not in the sense that it wouldn't be ethical. It's not doable at the present, but it could be ethical in certain circumstances if we could figure it out. The whole problem is we can't really connect nerves very well. So
Leave it to a goddamn slab to think that cutting out somebody's brain and putting it in another body is ethical.
well, if the other body is like dead already and is not long dead, then it wouldn't be unethical at all. I mean, obviously, it doesn't necessarily have to be unethical. Although obviously, it probably unethical.
Yes, Dr. Frankenstein. I agree.
Look, here's the thing. You could probably live forever if you keep translating your brain into younger clones of yourself. You just flush their brains down the toilet, So
Doesn't the brain age, but itself?
Yeah, it does too. But you could probably live a lot longer. The main cause of death is cardiovascular problems and tumors and that shit. You would eliminate those two, so you could live for a really long time.
So if that Russian experiment works, then people with money are going to live for a long time?
We can't transplant the brain. I mean, obviously, if we were to transplant the brain, we would transplant the brain and the entire medulla osseum, the whole basically, what do you call them in English? The spinal column.
Yes, but in Russia, they're trying to transplant the brain.
Well, yeah.
There's an actual experiment going on, and they're going to actually do it with living human beings.
Yeah, I know they've been trying to do it with like monkeys and shit. Like I said though, we can't really like put the nerves back together really well. We can't do that very well. So even if you could do it, it'd be like a really complicated operation. And I don't mean complicated. It'd probably take like days of work by like 20 people to get all those fucking nerves in your spinal column reattached to the other. It'd be like
so it's easier to do cybernetic enhancements. It's easier to do cybernetic enhancements.
Well, no,
than the
because we don't have any.
No, I mean there's a guy that got his fucking arm put on.
What?
Read for later. I've posted in the chat. Just a read for later.
Oh, you mean the first human head transplant? Yeah, that's bullshit.
So at what point do you think we stop going straight off of our reptilian mind? The eat, sleep, fuck, eat, sleep, fuck.
That's kind
Shelter.
of like an oversimplification / myth. I mean, reptilian mind and all that crap. I don't exactly know when we develop it beyond that
Our
point.
instinctual mind, okay? Our instinctual survival-based genetic imperatives.
Well, as far as I recall, we developed the ability to envisage we developed the ability of abstract thought due to the necessity of at least that's I believe the current prevalent theory, due to the necessity of the difficulties of communication within a human tribe or pack or however you want to call it at that time. So it was like we developed language, and it was basically our own internal relations between other humans that drove the development of the brain eventually, to the point that we actually could envisage abstract objects. that is, I believe, the current theory. There's others. Yeah, we don't really know how we're supposed to know that. Obviously, it's beneficial. The more you can, if you can store for winter and all that kind of crap, if you can, imagine the idea that there's also I've heard the idea that like we could have done that because we needed to do that because we needed to know where we stored our food for winter or stuff like that. I don't know.
So would you say
I'm
that
not an
different people
anthropologist, so.
would you say that different people from different places, their brains might develop differently depending on their environment?
Well, that's. I mean, your brain and my brain certainly develop differently depending on our environment. Everybody's brain develops differently depending on their environment. The only question is to which extent. So
And over like a 100,000-year time period, I mean, it's a certainty.
I was kind of making a slide. I was kind of making a slide at the whole quote unquote RR thing, if you know what I'm saying. But I don't want to be talking about the same three topics.
Race realism. Let's talk about race realism. Is a real thing. It's based on your environment. It's based on 10,000, 50,000 evolution.
Yeah, I mean, one theory as to why like Europeans have a higher IQ than basically humans are separated into two major groups. That is black people, sub-Saharan Africans, and everybody else. That's kind of the basic division. It really is a profound division. All other kind of divisions are a lot less stark in terms of the genetic differences between us. But as far as why we developed some people say it's like the Ice Age or whatever. I honestly never actually looked into it. I don't see the relevance of it for our current situation.
So to kind of keep on topic, especially with the questions, because I'm trying to keep to a format. They said that monkeys were given the chance, like they gave them. There's some tests they did with monkeys where they were given food or something or whatever, or like some kind of reward system, but they ended up using those rewards and traded it to the female monkeys for sex, so pretty much prostitution. So do you think prostitution is...
That is actually...
It's the monkey experiment where they essentially started to teach them how to use currency. Yeah. They taught these monkeys that they could hand in their given currency for things like bananas, etc. Now, one of the first things that happened was that the monkeys traded this currency to the female monkeys for sex, and prostitution became once again the first job.
It's not so much prostitution as it is basically how our society functions. The males take care of the females, or at least that's how it was for our basically our entire history. So the males basically take care of the females take care of the home, or like the nest, or whatever you want to call it. And so it's I wouldn't necessarily call it prostitution so much as I'd call it this guy brings me a banana, obviously. Big shot,
In the study, it particularly had female monkeys would quite literally hoard themselves out to most male members in the tribe.
But like I said, it's kind of reductionist.
They were able to just
because some people think that all
prostitution as opposed to one alpha taking care of a female.
You could argue that basically all like dating is prostitution as well. In a certain extent, people can make that argument. It's really like blurry.
So there's nothing wrong with prostitution, is what you're saying. It's natural.
I'm not saying
I'm just saying it's a natural anthropological
wrong with it. There's a lot of problems.
Females have that draw to be able to get males to come and.
No, this guy. Look, it's like
they can get paid by this from males.
This guy brought me these really awesome bananas and shit.
It's kind of like the old quote that the key that opens every door is a master key. The door that opens any key is a shit door.
The only reason why there is that disparity, why women are basically.
And I get the feeling that somebody's fucking with the voice chat right now.
Hold on.
Yeah, they are with the clown horn. I can't move him either.
Yeah, did director get muted?
No.
No, he's good.
I don't think I have.
You got muted.
No, I muted myself. Because no background noise.
So what I was saying is the reason why it's actually a very biological reason as to why males who play around are called players, and women are called sluts. It's because women are pregnant for 9 months when they get a kid. So whereas men don't have any biological consequences themselves of impregnating a child. So it's like, women have to be picky biologically as to who they have sex with, whereas we do not necessarily.
So this all went quiet all of a sudden. Rizzo,
No,
you
it's
there, mate?
it's because Tiwi was trolling.
I didn't hear anything.
Tui's not in the server anymore.
No, I mean Aqua.
Yeah. Hey, you shouldn't have kicked Aqua out. Aqua probably was enjoying this. Like, he just wanted to have it.
Well, he was the one that was fucking around.
Fair enough, but still.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to be a shit show and stuff like that. I'm not trying to,
No.
trying to be legit. I won't keep it here. I'll move it to a different channel, different server. But I was just testing here.
I'll be right back, guys.
Oh, they kicked Aqua.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can bring Aqua back. Just like you should have
Rhythm Bolt. Get rid of Clown Horn. Get rid of Clown Horn, dude.
Anyway, so I guess or no, if you have something, if not, I was gonna go to
I was just
the
gonna
third
ask you
question.
what games you into.
What games am I into?
Yeah.
I don't play video games.
Yeah, what a relevant. Wait. Tell the audience why you don't play video games anymore. Because I remember that story. That's great.
Well, I mean, it is kind of like some people pick up hobbies, and my hobby ended up playing music, playing guitar. So as much as somebody can sit and play a video game, I'd rather sit and play guitar. It's something where my attention can go to. But I did play video games for a little bit. But I had a good friend, a very good friend of mine, best friend of mine, that he ended up getting murdered over a dispute over a video game. Is like right when the PlayStation 3 first came out, and I was actually in rehab at the time, so I didn't even get to go to the funeral or anything. But him and his roommate, they were both on drugs. They were both on ecstasy, and they were playing some game. And so the PlayStation 3 first came out, and I think maybe like 2006. And it was like a couple months after it came out. And they were both big gamers, but they had gotten an argument like over the game. Something happened or whatever, and my friend's roommate, he was the roommate. He was living in his trailer. Pulled out a gun, because they'd gotten an argument over like something stupid. I don't even know what game they were playing, and my friend Dustin, and him being fucking stupid and a fucking retard, told the dude, "You won't do it, you fucking pussy." And he fucking put like a 350 Magnum to his head and blew his fucking brains out. And I was like, man, if people take video games that seriously, that's a little much. And then like also I had like my other best friend, he lost 4 years of his life to World of Warcraft. And when I say lost, I mean he was pretty much like a drug addict to it. Like he would like go to Walmart and steal the game cards or whatever to play online. And for me, it's like, if I'm going to be a junkie on anything, I'd rather be a junkie on drugs, not a junkie for video games, because I think it's, I've been more about a person that likes to go outside and go do stuff, not, I don't want to say video games are a waste of time.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, heroin and World of Warcraft are probably on like an even level as far as like dangerous addiction. I mean, one may kill you, but the other will make sure you never get laid.
Yeah, but it still does the same thing to your brain as far as it releases, impulses, the dopamine, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but drugs can fuck you up mind-wise. Well, I know a lot of people who played World of Warcraft and now they're like really rich and they're getting.
Yeah, that's just like, saying like, oh, I know somebody that, did heroin once or whatever, and like they just did it once and put it down. Not everybody. That's where it kind of goes into like where I'll say like a addiction. whether it be alcoholism, drugs, or gambling, or whatever. It's like some people have that genetic trait in them for their, like they go full out, and some people don't. That's why, like, if I want to relate to alcohol, that's something a little bit more relatable. There's some people that can go to the bar and just have like 1 or 2 drinks, and there's somebody else that goes to the bar and they get shit-faced plastered every time. Some people are more like are more inclined to take it overboard with no matter what they do. Just different people have different vices.
And I had a mate of mine, I actually met him when I was over in Thailand traveling. First night I met him, he ends up getting so fucking drunk that I end up finding a place at the bar that we're drinking at. Just getting a room for that night. The second night he gets so drunk that he ends up sleeping in the back of my mate's tuk-tuk, which is those little 3-wheeled motorcycle car things. The third night he gets so drunk that he ends up staying in the bar across the road, which is owned by a tranny, and ends up apparently waking up with the ladyboy looking at him with a big smile on his face. And he swears to God to this day that he didn't do shit, but I don't believe him. This is all just after he landed in the country. He already had a hotel booked. He got all his bags sent to the hotel, but he never checked in because he got too fucking wasted when we were hanging out.
Well, has he continued to have that kind of behavior, or is that, because I could say some people some people might just do that for like a couple of years, and that's just part of the, especially the male brain maturing. But if it's something that he's continually done, and it could be a different story.
He was past the point of maturing in that way, but I think it was more just, he was just having a bit of fun and being a bit reckless.
I mean, some people
he
just
got
have
out
fun.
of a small stint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see, understand how I can relate it to video games, because they're.
Yeah, of course. I mean, my stepbrother was so into World of Warcraft back in the day that he ended up. I remember one big fight they got into with my dad and my stepmother, where he was saying, "I don't give a shit. I just want to play World of Warcraft and do nothing. I don't care about school or work." Or he literally wanted to just have a career of playing World of Warcraft and doing nothing else.
Yeah. So, but I would say that video games are a lot more people play video games than play drugs, and so I'd say like there's a lot more, say, like high school kids that will get stuck on video games and like, oh, this is all I want to do, as opposed to like doing hardcore drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
They can almost have basically the same consequences. One might just be a little more extreme to your health and shit like that. But a lot of people say that video games don't make people violent, but I'm actually opposed to that. I think certain people, especially low IQ dindus, as you would say, they'll play these video games and
No, I didn't say that, Rich. You said.
No. That's what that's what I'm saying.
I'm kidding.
I said dindus, not director.
Oh yeah, I apologize for the misunderstanding.
Is director really quiet for anybody else right now, or is it just me?
With me.
I'm gonna bring the mic closer. That's probably it.
Aqua, can you please stop screaming with director?
I actually don't hear a goddamn thing. What are you talking
No, there you go. That's better.
Yeah. See, but like exactly what's going on is like why I wanted to do this on a different server or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean. So how was goddamn prison life, man?
Okay, so
Because,
adult
everybody
jail.
hears a lot of horror stories about U.S. prisons.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've over juvie. How was adult jail?
All right, so I'll talk about the longest time I did 6 months. I don't really. I mean, I will go into it, but I don't want to start a whole other story explaining how I got in there. But for the gist of it, I was like pretty much locked up on like some bullshit charges. But I was in they call it counties in the United States, but like in the state I live in, it's a parish.
Yeah, in Louisiana, they're parishes.
So it's a parish jail, and they separated people by age, pretty much, and like crime. So like you have all these different wings, and all the different wings they'll have like cells, but each cell can fit. The first two could fit 10 people, and then the next ones could fit like 60 people or whatever, in the cell blocks or whatever. But they separated people by the type of crime, and they separated people by age. You know, because they didn't want a bunch of young kids or whatever. Because like the young kids were the wild ones, especially like the young black kids. Those were the wild ones that just didn't give a fuck. Those are the guys that were just going and beating the fuck out of people or like shooting people and shit, just for no reason. So
They want to prove a name for themselves by being violent.
yeah, but luckily because of my charges, I had got sent into a part where it was a younger person, but it was for I was 20. I think I was 26. But I was in there with a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, but it was people that had like more like closer to mental disorders than actual like violent crimes. So I kind of looked out on that. And but I mean, like I talked to this one kid, and he was a young black kid. He was like 18 or 19, and he was in jail for like stealing a TV. But like he was going to college and shit like that, and that's when I just kind of realized, was like, these black people really are getting like fucked over, because if a white kid would have done the same crime this fucking black kid would have done, he would have just gotten like he wouldn't be doing fucking jail, and the dude was like had been sitting in jail for like 3 months, as opposed to if it was a white kid, he would have fucking gotten bailed out, or I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on like how they get fucking a lot of time they do it to themselves. But there are, like, especially like in the city that I was at the time, they do.
I'm not
Dude,
American,
dude,
so
it's a vicious circle, dude. It's very simple. It's not like I mean, it's not. It's a vicious circle. They do shit to themselves, and other people because of that they do shit to them. So it's like it's.
Well, a lot of
not,
it's them fighting each other and doing shit to each other.
Yeah. So and because of that, they are. Look, like I said, it's a vicious circle. It's not, you could say that some people that in some degree it is indeed our fault because we have, but on the other hand, we have learned to expect certain behavior. And what do you want from us when I mean. I'm not in the U.S., so I don't fucking care. But that when you got the majority of murders and shit happening, being committed by a segment of the population, you will be more suspicious towards that, or robberies or violent crimes being done by a segment of the population. You will by necessity adopt certain attitudes towards that segment of the population. So it's not even
Well,
one thing reinforces another. There is prejudice. There is definitely prejudice in racism in the United States. In racism, in the sense of prejudice towards racial groups. But it's not as if. I mean, what do you expect? It in many ways it is indeed it takes two to
tango.
Yeah.
Well, just like something else. Something that I've also noticed is a big difference between the white culture and the black culture is like, so like I grew up in a pretty nice, decent neighborhood, but white people were a lot more suspicious of their neighbors, or like want to interact less with their neighbors. So it would always be like, I'd go out to the end of the street to get the mail from the mailbox, and like if the neighbor right across the street from me was like getting the mailbox, it would always be like some kind of weird, awkward, like, oh hey, hello, or like white people don't want to interact with their neighbors. They don't care, they just are always kind of like, it's always like super awkward. Whereas in the hood, in the ghetto, you have big old neighborhood block parties, and everybody knows each other. Everybody's, that's a real big difference that I've noticed.
Oh, there's a lot of like, that I'd say that's more cultural than necessarily, than necessarily genetic, as opposed to a lot of these other things we're talking about. I mean, you'll have like white people cultures who are also very communal, shit like that. And people were all people were more communal in the past than they are now. So, that may be a product of our modern age, quote unquote. So,
Well, like my town is so segregated. Like, so like there was one of the richer neighborhoods, and there was 3 houses for sale. The 2 outside houses, opposite sides of like this middle house, were bought by 2 white families. Well, the middle house, the one in between, got bought by a black family. And as soon as all these houses were bought within like 2 or 3 months. As soon as that, it was found out that a black family was moving into this, house in between 2 white people. The 2 white people immediately put their houses for sale, and they had only been living there for like a month.
That's why all these like white nationalists and whatever they're talking about an ethno state and like segregation and all that sort of shit. Well, fine, whatever. But as far as I can see, you're already pretty segregated as it is. I mean,
it's not like these people were like inherently racist or it's not like they'll call people niggers or anything. But they just didn't want to they didn't want to live next to, because I can understand, because those black people end up staying there. And so it's a house I used to drive past all the time. They would always be out in the front yard, like barbecuing or just being loud and shit. Like they weren't doing anything illegal or anything, but they were just being,
they're different people. Yeah, they're different people.
So like I was saying, I'm not saying those people moved away because they're racist. They're not like, oh, I'm not going to live next to a nigger. It's just more of like, I don't want to live next to this noise, or I don't want to live next to these people that are going to be playing loud music and shit like that.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, America is pretty much segregated as it is in terms of race. So I mean, I don't know what would be achieved by all these weirdos who want to, push in.
Because when you're young, you do stupid stuff, and the mixing is the problem.
Yeah, well, and segregation only works to a certain point until it's official.
Well, that's marginal. The mixing is marginal. I don't think it's an actual miscegenation. I don't think.
No.
Like Detroit, right? Or some areas like that, like Chicago, where there's massive amounts of gun murder, and it all comes from the inner city black communities. It doesn't just stay in their neighborhoods though.
In the Hispanic community as well.
Yeah.
It spills over, but I mean, even during segregation, you didn't actually prevent people from moving around or quote unquote spilling over into other neighborhoods with if they were violent or doing shit. You just had like the ability to prevent people from living in certain quarters of that shit, but and that's pretty much the state of affairs now. It wasn't like prohibited for black people to move around in white people neighborhoods. It wasn't like I mean, at least not legally as far as I know. It was like kind of you're in the wrong neighborhood, boy. Click clack.
Boy, what are you doing here riding your bicycle in this neighborhood?
Director, what do you think? In South Africa, Director, there are more murders in a week in South Africa when black people are in control than there were in a year when white people were in control. What do you think about that?
What do you mean? What do I think about that? Can you specify?
Why do you think that is?
Well, obviously because as far as the stats say, white people are more intelligent, hence it would make sense that they would run the state more efficiently and more orderly, in a more orderly fashion.
So I just didn't know your position on it. That's all. So I was asking. Back to Rizzo.
I mean, what else would it be? I mean, maybe there's like a other reason. Maybe there's some other reason, but
I would just say like it to me. I would just say something that used to like really, really upset me is so like my mom had sold her house and moved away to be close to my sister, and then like that didn't work out, so she ended up having to move back down. It sucked because like she had a house for like 16 years or whatever, and then the market was bad because she sold it in like 2008 or 2009 when the housing market crashed, so she didn't make any money off of it or whatever. But she ended up moving into an apartment complex in Baton Rouge. Well, the apartments that she lived in were, some of them were Section 8. And the rent was, like, really high for, like, especially the area. Especially for the apartments, it was, like, I think she was paying, like, $980 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment that was maybe 1,000 or 1,200 square feet. But you would have all these neighbors that lived next to her that were Section 8, poor people or whatever. and they were only paying like maybe $200 a month. Like I've had problems trying to find an apartment to live in because I made too much money. I wasn't allowed to move into an apartment because I was like, oh, these are affordable, because I made too much money. That's something that's always really pissed me off. Like, there's no reason that, you know, if people have the money to pay for a place to live, they should be able to move in there. But because I make too much money, I'm not allowed to live there. You know, but it's
So
the
wait, your
government,
state regulations stop you from doing that?
it's the country. But yeah, it's
like,
state
you
and country,
know,
state and federal.
yeah, it's like
So the
community
the
housing.
apartment the
In that case, they're
apartments.
subsidizing you, yeah?
Yeah. So it's subsidized.
That is the
So they'll
state
make
is subsidizing you,
yeah, they'll make more money from. So say the rent's $800. You know, I'll go in there and pay $800 a month to live there. But if they have somebody else that's of, you know, low income, they only pay $200. But the state or the federal will subsidize them for more than they're actually getting or whatever. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's part of like the social safety net. I mean, yeah.
But I mean, but like some of them are like really nice. Like I can understand if it was like shitty piece of shit apartments, but like some of them like were really nice, and it's like, you know, why am I forced to have to move into it? You know, so it was like they had 2 apartment complexes right next to each other. One for the apartment I was trying to get to was $750 a month. That was the Section 8 one, and the other one was $1,200 a month, but they're almost the exact same. But just because I make more money, I have to go live in a more expensive place. It's unfair.
Yeah,
Well-
but dude, they're not ever actually. You're not actually ever paying less money than that. It's just that you're paying the rest of their rent when they're paying $200 with your taxes.
Yeah, and I don't like that. You know, I
Obviously you wouldn't, but
get
here's the
shit
thing.
on for making too much money. I mean, like, and that's the same reason why me and my ex-wife had to have an abortion. Is because, you know, so she didn't have insurance. I didn't have her under my insurance for work at the time. She got pregnant, and, you know, we're fighting and stuff like that. So it was an option that we were thinking about, and so
I'm gonna feel like the opposing argument here. I'm not necessarily in support of it one way or the other, but
okay.
I mean, especially in America, it's a lot more complicated because of your like.
Are we talking about the abortion issue?
The safety net. The safety net, basically.
No,
I'm gonna feel like the opposing argument. The argument behind the safety net.
Are you talking about the
is to
abortion
ensure-
issue or the
No,
apartments issue?
I'm talking about, you know, the housing.
Oh, okay. Because I kind of got me
Yeah.
on something else, but, you know, we'll continue on that.
The idea because of that, the idea behind that is like, you know, if to allow people to actually get themselves back on their feet. For example, you know,
But they don't use it. They
you're,
abuse the system.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, for example, in Germany, people do not expect others to abuse the system. People expect others to try and get themselves on their feet, and they do. And it's like, you know, it's people they have a really strong social safety net in Germany, for example, or even in Switzerland. They got you know, if you the difference between, you know, people who abuse the whole thing is the level.
Okay, well, I can understand that. I can understand that
that
would be fair. I can understand that would be fair. But if a white family had tried to do the same thing, they would have a lot harder time to get that subsidized apartment than a black family, because they look.
Oh, I mean,
they ask you what race. They ask you what race you are, and so the black people get preference.
That's bullshit.
The black people get preference over white families, and that's why white people down here where I live end up living in trailers as opposed to these nice apartments.
Well, that's bullshit, obviously. I mean, that's complete and total bullshit. And, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, the thing is, Australia has a safety net, but the whole safety net was only for people who lost their job. When it first came in, only people who lost their job. So not getting a job, not doing it. It was only for people who lost their job until they could find a new one, and there was a certain time limit on that shit.
Well, yeah, you know, like in Germany really has a extensive social, let's call it a safety net.
No, we're like Germany now, but when we originally started, I think we were one of the first countries to have one.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Germans had it back in the 19th century before.
Oh, they had it with Hitler.
Or even during
Hitler
Bismarck.
was. Pretty sure Hitler was the one.
No,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Well,
man.
like,
It was-
all right. So, director, give me your opinion
Pretty
on
sure
this.
this is all the fault of the Jews. Let's be honest.
So, director, let me get your opinion on this. So, me and my ex-wife, she had gotten pregnant. I made too much money for her to get on Medicaid. So, like, there's tons of girls that I went to school with, and if you're single and you're not married and you get knocked up, you can just go get Medicaid and everything and have a baby for free. Now, if you make too much money and you don't have insurance, you have to pay out of pocket. So out of pocket costs for having a child, going to doctor visits every day and the birth and everything is actually $30,000. You know what I mean?
Holy
So
shit.
I would have had to come out for $30,000 to have a child with somebody that I didn't know I was still going to be with. You know what I mean? And
Look,
and then have to
look,
have to do all
don't
that.
ask me. Don't ask me how to fix the U.S. medical system. I have no fucking idea. You guys are.
Scrap it. Start over.
I don't even know. I have no idea.
But it just pisses me off that like my friend's baby
I mean-
mama, she had a
I
kid
like
with
it.
him.
I'd get the money. I mean, I can
She-
get the extra.
Yeah, she had a kid with him, and she had 2 other kids, and so she's had all 3 of her kids without having to pay a fucking single dime out of her pocket because she wasn't married. But I was married, my wife, because my income was too much. I couldn't get anything subsidized, even though so I was making good money, but I didn't have any money saved up. So I was making, like $2,000 a week or whatever, but I was almost living paycheck to paycheck. Not
Yeah,
paycheck
but
to paycheck, but I
if
didn't
you
have
were
the
like
money.
in Germany,
But
if you were
another
like
thing
in
is,
Germany,
they refuse, if you don't have insurance and you're pregnant, they refuse, you can't go see a doctor if you don't have insurance, if you're
I
pregnant.
know.
How horrible is that?
I mean, I can't even envisage that the whole situation.
So, I mean, you can understand
that's
why our option was the one that we picked.
For me, it's like very, very obvious. If you have a medical problem, you go to the fucking doctor and he fixes you up, and it's basically free. So I have.
But there was
I
no
have
payment
no
plan on a
idea.
pregnancy. You couldn't just payment plan like, hey, look, I make this much, let's set up a payment plan. It was
Yeah,
all
you pay,
cash
like,
up front. And a
300.
child can die. A child can die if it's not taken care of properly, from the womb or whatever. But they just didn't. That was the whole Obama thing that came in place.
What I can say that I can make 2 points in that regard. First, your whole medical system is fucked, and I can't even fucking imagine having to pay $30,000 for having a kid. I mean, that is just I don't even know what to think about that. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how are you gonna fix your system. Yeah, probably. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, it's very unfair to poor white people. On the other hand, you don't want to be subsidizing all the other guys, and they're there. Yeah.
When it's almost like they make having babies.
fucking don't know.
It's almost like they make having babies a business, because I think when you do your federal taxes, you get about $3,000 per child. When your federal taxes. So you have all these.
So that's one thing. Let me make my second point. The second point I would make to that regard is if you were, for example, living in Germany, you would feel a kind of sense of you would feel a stronger sense of like a national or societal obligation that that mean you might say rather that it's that's fair. These people don't have a job, they're not making any money, so it'd be fair for me to actually pay for this as opposed to them not paying for it. They will eventually get out of their poverty, so it's okay that I have to pay and they don't. I mean, you might say that they're fellow Germans or fellow Europeans or whatever, and they will get out of their problems, and it's fair. I make money, they don't. So but again though, I hasten to point to my first remark, which is America is fucked up and your medical system is fucked up, and $30,000 for obstetric care is like I can't even imagine that. That is just weird. That is completely weird. So I don't know how to fix the American medical system. I have no idea. I don't know if this is in fact the best that you could possibly have, because of how I mean, what is it like? You're 30%.
It's complicated.
Yeah, because if you did actually, if you look at it from the other perspective, if you did actually have like a system that we have here, where you or in Europe and basically everywhere else, where you kind of get stuff for free, but you obviously pay not for free, but you pay it with your taxes and everybody pays. Then you would be paying for like all those for everybody else you really don't want to pay, for people who are abusing the welfare system, for people you feel no kind of association with. And on the other hand, maybe it's better that you don't have that kind of system, because who wants to pay for Joachim
so-
and
Black people.
50,000 children?
The way I see it in America, the
Fucking.
employment participation rate is low. The unemployment rate is rather high.
No,
And
not
if you wanted to
now.
try
No,
to-
it's really low.
Not if you look at the employment participation rate though. A lot of people
I'm
who
not going
just
to leave,
employment.
so I'll see you guys later.
Yeah,
Who
I
are
think I'm
you?
gonna. I think I'm gonna cut the stream soon. I don't want it to be too long, but we can continue this conversation.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I guess I was just gonna say like America will probably end up collapsing trying to have a socialized for
Yeah,
medicine. It's
yeah,
just
who-
there's too
who
many
the
people
fuck
who
knows?
don't participate in the economy.
I mean, yeah,
Just
and
one last question.
Sure.
So just
I mean,
Alright.
get back
Rizzo,
to the
one last
regular
question.
stuff. Hey Rizzo, tell us how you started selling drugs in the first place.
How I found what?
How you started to get into selling drugs.
drugs are bad. Okay.
It was pretty much
Fun and care.
the most weed I sold, or like when I was like really actively selling weed, like when I was like making the money off of it. It was pretty much because I'd gotten out of the Marine Corps. Me and my ex-wife were living with her parents, and I was working a job making $9 an hour, washing dishes at Chili's, and I just wanted to make more money and had a lot of connections. I had sold weed in high school here and there, so like it was just for fast, easy money. And also at the time, me and my ex-wife had like a habit of other drugs, and so it was pretty much to finance and support another habit.
So it was just literally greed and addiction.
Well,
I-
didn't he just say that, dude? Come on.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
it was part of just like the kind of culture, not the culture, but it was just, I worked a regular job. I don't know. I was just being a degenerate, pretty much.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've seen a lot of that here as well. I mean, obviously not as much as in the U.S., but
How I was doing is completely different than like there's plenty of black people that like sell like hardcore drugs or whatever, but they don't do it and they make a lot of money, but they always end up in jail. Like there was so I had actually quit selling weed, but my wife didn't have any money because she wasn't working and she wanted to be able to afford to buy me an anniversary gift. So she had hit up my plug and had started selling weed. Well, I got a call one night when I was at work saying, hey, the cops are raiding the house or whatever, and we're living at our parents' house. So I was like, Jesus Christ. So like I showed up back at the house and the cops had my wife in handcuffs, and they were like, if you don't call somebody that you're getting the shit from, we're gonna bring your wife to jail. And so I was caught up in that whole, do I rattle my friends or do I take care of my wife? And at that point I was like, I love my wife, my wife comes before anybody else. But the thing is, when I was walking back to the house where we're staying at, I called everybody I knew and was like, hey, look, man, the cops raided my house. If I call you, don't answer. I gave everybody the heads up in the morning.
right.
But I still made a phone call to play it easy for the cops or whatever. But this fucking idiot, this stupid motherfucker, answered.
Didn't listen.
Yeah, he didn't listen.
answer.
And then so like I had to like sit under the garage, and like as soon as he pulled up, the cops like drove up on him or whatever, and he was screaming at me, oh Rizzo, I fucking hate you, I'm gonna get you for this, I'm gonna get you for this, blah blah. And then like the next morning after we woke up, I was getting death threats and shit like that, from like all these people. But I was like, I'm sorry, like my wife's more important than, druggy dealing friends or whatever. So I mean, after that I haven't done it since. And I just never want to be in that situation ever again.
Weed isn't even a drug. Come on.
What did your friends after that think? Like the ones that weren't stupid enough to come.
I mean, they understand because I told them, I said, like, look, I know we're, I said, if y'all were in my position, what would you do? I said, I was living, we were living with my wife's parents at the time. So, what would I have done if I'd have been like, nope, not gonna make the phone call. My wife goes to jail. Then I'm just like, you think I would still have a place to live at her parents' house if I would have let her to go to jail? No.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it. You couldn't actually do something.
Obviously, you did the right decision. I mean, you made the right decision. So I got that. I mean,
I was pissed off. I was pissed off at her for being so stupid to fucking start trying to sell behind my back. She hit my plug up behind my back, and like sold to somebody she didn't know, who ended up like getting pulled over and like ratting on her or whatever.
So did you guys show any understanding for your circumstances?
Eventually it all blew over. The dude didn't even end up going to jail because like what they did, they were like, I couldn't get in touch with the weed guy, so I got in touch with the Roxy guy. That was the idiot. And like that's what they really wanted, is because like they were like, look, we don't care about the weed. We found some rolled up dollar bills and straws, and they're like, are y'all on Roxy's? And the thing was that the narc police officer that was in the town at the time was addicted to Roxy's and shit like that. So like it was known that he would get people to bust people for pills or whatever, so that he could take them and do it himself.
That's just one of the perks.
Fucking cunt.
Ooh, that reminds me of a story, but yeah, never mind.
That's just one of the perks when you become an arc. Why not?
That reminds me of a story about a guy called Zoom.
No,
I hereby I disavow any association with.
In a country town, some cops can be bad, some cops can be good. That's all. I'll leave it as that.
Yeah, that's tautology. So
yeah,
look,
if you still live in that country town, then you probably don't want to tell that story.
Yeah.
As far as Zoom goes, I'm gonna have to disavow all of you. I support Zoom and his, innocent until proven
Zoom's
guilty.
a great guy, right? Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah,
So,
but
did
who
you
are
ever
you
hear-
to say he's guilty or innocent? I think I'm perfect for the job, and he's guilty as sin.
Well, I think the judges are people qualified to make that.
I am a judge.
Well, director's
You're
like
good.
a slab, so he's probably pedophile anyway.
Hey, don't be going around throwing
I don't want
those
to.
kind
I
of
don't want
accusations
to.
like
I
that.
don't want to.
All Slavs are pedophiles. Known fact. Number
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't want to throw shade on my fellow pedos. So
two. Too late. You've already done it.
I haven't.
Wait, Zero, did you ever hear that case a few years ago when 11 kilos of cocaine and methamphetamines went missing from the police evidence lockup of the Gold Coast?
I did.
Yeah.
What Gulf Coast?
So it's
Gold Coast.
in Australia, the Gold Coast. 11
okay.
kilos of cocaine and methamphetamines went missing from the evidence lockup inside the police
That's
station.
not so much. I mean, over
There's
here
more. Trust me.
Wow.
There would have been
Yeah.
more. They just hid the number.
it was like
that's how much they reported.
Sure, it was like
It was
7,
pretty much
5, 7, 2 kilos. We found here 2 kilos.
Yeah.
Croatian
like,
cops here.
wait,
Croatia is like on the way between all sorts of the Balkans.
Alright, how about we wrap it up now then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
We intercept a lot of.
I was just
What I'm
about
trying to
to
say is
ask.
we intercept a lot of fucking. Every now and again you get on a vast quantity of heroin or whatever traveling from Afghanistan or whatever that's trying to get
Alright,
into Europe.
Before we
Alright.
wrap it up, you may as well get in the habit of looking into the chat. There hasn't been much of it because we've only had
Yeah, let me read some super
like
chats
7
real
viewers at
quick.
the
Let me
moment,
read
which is
some
still
super
more
chats.
than the shit show ever got.
Yeah.
No, the shit got like 50 at one point.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let me read
Yeah?
some super chats real quick. So we got Westerner Adrift for $2 that says, "Oh yeah, geomorphology, I don't know how to say that.
Geomorphology.
Yeah, hold on. Let me.
Geomorphology.
Yeah, geomorphology. Let's
What about
see.
geomorphology? What's your drift?
I like that.
We got Bearded for $5 that says, "I will be. Just woke up. Thank you, Bearded." We got Clown Goddess for $10. Thank you, Goddess. So says, but people started going in, so I had to add them. Thank you, Clown Goddess. And that's it.
Oof,
Okay, so
that's not even-
so how do we split the money, guys?
We'll
we
talk
get it
about that
all.
off the stream.
What's gonna be my
You
cut?
get exposure.
Oh,
you just get
Rizzo
a
just is paying me in like $100 of creations.
I'm paying you
So
a dick, dog.
basically pretty much 50 cents US.
I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be like, I'm gonna be a millionaire, man. I don't care.
Yeah.
Care.
20 bucks, you could fucking feed an entire fucking Croatian family for a week.
We got a super chat from Moot.
You actually might.
We got a super chat from Moot, $100. Thank you so much, Moot. Tiwi did nothing wrong.
Oh, well, that's about it then.
Yep. All right, guys. So I think this stream was all right. I'll get in contact with y'all outside and try to figure out more if we can do the same kind of stuff or more specific topics, more just one-on-ones, different things throughout the week. So I appreciate it.
All right.
My pleasure, Rizzo.
Good talk.
All right.
See you around.
All right. You gotta